Hello and welcome to Investing Confidential. If you've been reading the media, financial press, listening to what these talking heads have to say about Argentina, it's been bad. The country's a mess, was a mess, been a mess for a very long time. But finally, things are changing. And I'm going to show you that reality is bad, but not as bad as what they think you want to see. And there's some interesting investment opportunities that are now arising. And I think I'm going to go through some of these, and I'm also going to give you my best bets on where to eat. If you go to Argentina, the food down there is phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you two places that are must eat if you go to Buenos Aires. So stay tuned for that. So again, let's talk about the news over the weekend. Javier Milei, he won the election. He ran against a Peronist, the Peronist incumbent, the socialist. These are the guys who destroyed the economy. This guy in particular was one of the leaders of the destruction of the economy. This is one of the worst economy in the world. But these Peronists, these socialists, basically just destroyed the country. Bottom line, and it was a landslide, folks. And I'm actually surprised that 40 some odd percent of the populace actually voted for the socialists, but I know why. And I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes. But okay, Milei's victory was fantastic. As I told you, he ran against the socialist incumbent that destroyed the economy for 20 years. The media in the world, okay, not just this country, they don't focus on when it comes to these socialist governments, these really terrible governments, the left governments. They never focus on them. They always focus on the right. And this has nothing to do with politics. Argentina, like Brazil, is one of the leaders in food production in the world. They're a breadbasket. They're a powerhouse. They could have been a great partner for the U.S., but for the last 20 years, the U.S. had this stupid policy about China, Europe, all this, and just had forgotten about South America. And the bottom line is, this is why Argentina turned left, and it's been a disaster. So things have changed dramatically. I think they're incredibly positive. But again, look at this. Look at what these journalists. Okay, look at the Washington Post. Okay, instead of celebrating this victory, a really change for the country, what do they focus on? Trump-like. They call me like Trump-like. Okay. Then you got the Financial Times here. Okay, radical. These people are a disgrace. Okay, Wall Street Journal a little better. Okay, they focused on what happened. Okay, the victory of Milei, the change, and then you got the New York Times. It doesn't surprise me. Far right. No, Milei's not far right. He is a president that the country wants. Okay, they don't want socialist, leftist, terrible policies. They want to change. Has nothing to do with far right. This is about change. Okay, and all you got to do is look at this socialist government's track record. Look at inflation. CPI at 140%. This is really, when you see CPI at 140%, prices have risen. It's really about your currency, devaluation of a currency. Okay, they spent too much. They've defaulted. They print a lot of money. Their currency is worthless, and they have too much debt, and it's an issue. Okay, but it's all about a massive devaluation. The black market, for example, is 100% more. So if you go down with dollars, everything's cheap, very, very cheap. But it's an artificial economy, artificial currency. And here's the hypocrisy. Here's the ridiculous of the government. Now, when you have a currency this cheap or whacked out, okay, the first thing you'd think of is, okay, well, you can export, right? You'd have a trade surplus, right? Because the currency's cheap, you can go out and ship your goods. No, it's not the case. They have a trade deficit. It makes no sense. But if you think about the terrible government, the terrible socialist Peronist government they've had for 20 plus years, it makes sense. They've been interfering with exports, interfering with the farmers, trying to put taxes and all this to make up for their horrible decisions. And so it's a nightmare. Okay, instead of a trade surplus with a cheap currency, you got a trade deficit. It's ridiculous. Another red flag here. And again, I'm going to go back. Why did the Peronists get almost 40%? When you go to Argentina, which I've been recently, I mean, nobody likes this current government. Everyone hated the government. But here you see why they got at least 40% of the vote. They got big vote. I mean, it was a landslide. But look, 55% of workers, of aged workers, work for the government. This is one of the highest in the world. Any totalitarian society, okay, that's China, Cuba, and obviously in the past, Argentina, the government just hires people. They don't care. They just print money. It's just mismanagement. It's a horrible situation, and it's now changed. It's changed for the better. Okay. Now, look, Milei's not going to go in there without anything to work with. Okay. He has some interesting things to work with. Look at the unemployment rate. It's very low. Now, certainly it's low because the government is hiring all the workers. But look, realistically speaking, you've got an unemployment rate lower than Brazil, lower than Chile. Okay. Again, government workers. But the reality is, okay, I guess because I've been down there, is there are a lot of international companies, American companies, that are hiring tons of contract workers in Argentina because of the rate, because the salaries are low. Tech workers. Argentina has one of the best populated in emerging market relative to emerging markets, has one of the best educated populations. They have phenomenal tech schools. So they have great software engineers, as good as anywhere else in the world. And there's just tons of jobs. Okay. I have employees in Argentina on the tech side. I'm telling you, it's a great place. And some of these macro stats, despite the shitty government, excuse my French, were good. Look at gross debt to GDP. Okay, look, they defaulted on their debt in the past, but it's only 89%. Okay, versus the U.S. 123%. I mean, Argentina can't borrow. No one's going to lend them money. But again, you have something to work with. There's not much debt relative to the rest of emerging markets like Brazil, et cetera. And obviously, you got the West as a disaster with all this debt. The U.S., the U.K., tons of debt. Okay, but even better, you have household debt to GDP, 4%. What does that take? That means people are not levered. The consumer is not levered at all. Very, very low leverage. Look at the US, 74%. But even compared to other emerging markets, the Argentine consumer is in good shape, relatively speaking. Look at GDP per capita. Okay, this shows how rich a country is in terms of their wages and their consumption power. Okay, look at the potential. You got Argentina 13,300 versus Brazil, okay, the seventh largest economy in the world, at 10.4, and China's even lower. So Argentina, despite being a mess, a disaster, and all of these things, their workers their consumers are in good situation, okay, and they're going to stay in good situation, despite obviously the government's going to slim down, but there's going to be investment coming in. All that said, there is a huge opportunity. Okay, the market is going to be strong this week, folks. The stock market, this is what you got to focus on. Okay, so we're all talking about stock markets. Here's the list of Argentine ADRs. There's a lot to choose from. I would say focus on domestic economy, but I'm going to go through some of the names here. But you see, there's enough. Then they're all going to go up. They're all going to go up this week, and they're going to keep going up. And so, get a list. You can get it from any broker. You can get it from Yahoo Finance, investing.com. Get a list, pick out a few names. I'll go through some now, but this market's going higher. Okay, end of story. It is going higher. Let's look at some of the blue chips. First, you got YPF. YPF is the national oil company. Again, it's not a company that's going to benefit that much, but again, it's a big cap name. It's going to go up with the ETF. Okay, and there is an ETF, as you can see here now. So there's an Argentine ETF. All the big names are in there on index wise. So it's probably, if you don't know what to buy, this is probably the best thing to buy. Okay, next is Pampa, PAM. It's probably, in terms of fundamentals, the best company in the country. It's not a stock that's cheap. relative to the rest of the market, but globally it's very cheap. Take a look at this one. PM is a symbol. And finally, probably your best option here, domestic economy, are the banks. And this one in particular, Banco Macro. The stock has been depressed, destroyed. This one's going to probably rocket higher. During the last sort of change in government that only lasted a few years, I think the stock was close to 70. So there is some juice left in this stock and the rest. I think the whole market's going higher. So take a look at those names. And so now let's go from stocks to food. Okay, I've been going to Argentina for 25 plus years. It is one of the great places for food by far. It's known for steak and other things, but let me focus on just two restaurants here with two of the cuisine, the two cuisines that I like the most in Argentina. First is obviously meat. But first, let's look at the area where if you do travel there, you're going to be going to first. It's called Puerto Madero, as you can see here. This is a tourist destination. It's high-end apartments. It's waterfront, great restaurants. You can walk for miles up and down. Very safe area. It's a wonderful place. I mean, you go to a country like Argentina, you expect the worst, then you come to Puerto Madero, and you're like, wow, I'm in the West. So let's spotlight the first restaurant here. It's called La Brisas. Expensive place. I would say it's probably going to cost with wine $100 to $120 per person. That's expensive for Argentina, not for New York, not for Los Angeles, Miami, but the steaks are, to me, they're the best in town. Now, Don Julio gets all the press. It's where all the celebrities go to, et cetera, but forget about that one. Las Brisas in Puerto Madero has the best wine list. And the reason I like the steaks there, first of all, they're out of this world. And they come from the farm. Okay, Las Brisas has its own farm. And these are grass-fed beef, okay? And they raise their own cattle, and so you talk about farm to table. This is farm to table, and it's like the old days. Argentina, and it's still like this today. But Argentina was a place when you went there and you had meat. I mean, literally, the meat came right from the pasture. Okay, every restaurant had their own farm, or they just bought from local farms. Obviously, things have changed all over the world. Unfortunately, everyone's going to the slaughterhouses, this kind of thing, but this restaurant in particular, expensive, worth the price, because the meat comes from their own farm. And then what do you want to order? Okay, what you should order is the two pieces of meat that the Argentines love. One is called vacío. Okay, you can see the two here, but one's vacío, which we would call, I guess, flank steak in this country, and then asado de tira, which is beef ribs. I mean, they butcher them different than here. Obviously, you're used to short ribs, this kind of thing. But can I tell you, let me tell you something. This vacío and the asado, you can't go wrong. Don't order anything else. This you go down to any steak restaurant in Argentina. These are the two steak. This is what the locals eat. It's the best, and I would highly recommend it. And then obviously you see a little chimichurri sauce. It's out of this world. And then another must-have thing, I don't have a picture of it here, but provoleta, which is homemade provolone cheese, hard provolone. They put it on a grill. It is out of this world. Okay, so Las Brisas, expensive, worth it, farm to table, great meat. My first suggestion. Okay, the second thing I want to mention is a place in the center of the city near a famous monument here called the Obelisco. You can see a picture of it here. And I want to talk about pizza, because Argentine pizza is some of the best in the world. In my mind, it's as good as anywhere that I've had pizza in New York or Italy or anything of that nature. The Argentine pizza is very undervalued. It's phenomenal. Okay, I've been eating pizza down there, again, 25 plus years. Never gets any press, very consistent. And if you ask any Argentine that's in New York, they prefer their own pizza. It's a little different. So the best pizza place in the entire country is right here. It's called Pizza Getting. Well established in this country. It's been around for It was started in 1932 by two Italian immigrants. Absolutely phenomenal place. It looks like a little place when you walk in, but when you get online and you go into the back, it's this massive restaurant, mostly locals, very few tourists, but the do tourists come, and it's a domestic treasure. Now, what is Argentine pizza? Okay, Argentine pizza is a pizza with lots of cheese. Argentines love their cheese. They've got good crust. It's soft in the middle. It's like a cross between Chicago deep dish pizza and New York pizza. Tons of mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, by the way. All the restaurants there make their own. At least this place makes their own mozzarella. It's phenomenal. You have two types. You got a classic pizza, which you can see here. Then usually the Argentines get a few toppings. Never a lot of toppings like we have here in the States, but a few toppings. And just telling you, if you go to Argentina, obviously everyone's going for the steak. The Italian food, especially the pizza, is out of this world. And the pizza is as good as anywhere you're going to get anywhere. Another Argentine specialty, Milanese. It's a pounded and pan-fried steak. Absolutely phenomenal. Another dish you should probably order when you go down there. So let me sum everything up. New government, economic friendly, capital markets friendly. But basically anything's better than the last bums that just got thrown out. These guys were bums. They were socialists, leftists, and they were criminals. They stole from the country. I mean, just a disaster. So today you got a business friendly government coming in, should stabilize the currency, which has to be done. They're talking about dollarization. If that does happen, it's going to be great for local assets like real estate. So if you're going to buy an apartment down there, it's probably a little too late, but anyone who owns real estate down there is going to get a revaluation. Would I buy the stocks even if they gap up? Yes. Okay. I can tell you that large investors, institutional investors, have a love affair with this country, especially the European big institutions, the pension funds. They love this country because it's a European style country. Obviously, there's a lot of people. You're going to read some negative things about Milei. People are going to be skeptical. The press. Don't believe anything. Okay, doesn't matter who became president, as long as it one of the Peronists. It doesn't matter who became. Milei's obviously, I think, a good alternative, but the country was so depressed, so destroyed, that this guy is just what the doctor ordered. This is a beautiful country. It's got an amazing, topography. It's an incredible place to go vacation. So even if you don't buy stocks, you should go there on vacation. Absolutely. The food is wonderful. The wine is out of this world. The people are very friendly. So if you're an investor looking at Argentine stocks, don't be careful. Buy.